What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. Joined as always by my main man, Jonathan. What's going on, Jonathan? How you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. Combine's about to start. Getting more and more juicy stuff going on. We got coaching updates. We got all kinds of stuff going on. So
Oh yeah, man. It's a good day, happening day. We got finally got guys getting released that there was some little bit of confusion on. We'll get into here in a few minutes. Um, but yeah, we definitely got some happening stuff. Second day into the work week, everything's going decent enough. So I guess without much further ado, might as well just go ahead and get on into it.
absolutely.
Oh, see, y'all can't see me dancing when the intro is going on, which is a good thing. I'm saving y'all's saving y'all's eyes on that one. What's going
I,
on, Anthony Romero? How y'all doing tonight? How's everybody doing in the chat? It's been I've been excited about getting to the live stream because we're getting into the heart of the season that I really like. The as much as I like the games, as much as I enjoy seeing it all unwind and unfold rather, I really enjoy like the team building and how how are we going to construct the roster for 2023. It reminds me of when I was a kid. My favorite type of movies were heist movies because I always loved the setup. Like you spend like
yep.
an hour and a half of a 2 hour movie going through setting up how you're going to knock off the casino or the museum or whatever you're going to knock off, and then the last 30 minutes you get to see them do it, like implement the heist. And that's what this part of the season feels like to me. It feels like we are getting bank blueprints, and we're trying to convince the bomb technician to join the squad, and I'm pretty sure there's an angry British man that we need for the enforcer. you know
we gotta have the super flexible Asian dude that can fit into a
True, right,
suitcase,
right, we
so he
got to have.
can
Yep,
spider walk around the room. You know
exactly, duck and dodge through all the lasers and all that good stuff,
exactly,
so that's where
exactly.
we're at now, like. And so today, well, I guess before we get into that, yesterday we had like a basically the full like coaching staff got announced. Um, Obviously, a few weeks back we hire Ryan Nielsen. Shortly thereafter that we hire Jerry Gray as assistant head coach and defense, like
Mhm.
whatever that seems to mean. And then you bring in Huxtable. What's Huxtable's first name? Do you remember what Huxtable's? Dave
I
Huxtable.
do. There you go.
Yeah, so we bring in Dave Huxtable, as a defensive, like senior defensive assistant. So like we're surrounding, uh, Nielsen, a first time DC, with some like very experienced guys, and we then round out the rest of the coaching staff. Now, nothing major, um, but when you did move on from Pease, you were going to make some adjustments. You have Nick Perry is now the assistant receivers coach. I'm gonna butcher this name. Uh, Lanier Gothi. That's Gothie. Go Gothi, maybe.
Gothy is
Gothi.
like
Gothi is probably, that's got to be
so
closer.
super amounts of eyeshadow.
Lots of it. Very like very emo. Anyway, he is the defensive front specialist. Now we don't necessarily. Now the part that I find interesting is that we don't necessarily have a D line coach. Now,
Mhm.
Nielsen, that's kind of like his bread and butter was the D line.
Yep.
That's what he did for New Orleans. So you figure maybe his first year, uh, he takes more of a hands-on approach with the D line. Who knows? But you have
That would be my guess. Is he is the de facto defensive line coach.
right now. Nick is asking. uh, who is the OC. Okay, the OC is Dave Rigone, right?
Yep.
Hold tight. Willie Docton tipped us $10, and we appreciate it. He
What up,
says,
Willie?
he says Ocean's 11. Nah, Falcons 11. That's right.
There you go. There you go.
Glad you got the references. I like when
I am the Brad Pitt of the movie.
mm,
You'll see it.
that that side. It's there you go. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
So Lanier Gothy is the defensive front specialist. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's see, I'm going to read, see if I can find. I'm looking on their website. They actually don't have it. They don't have a little blurb on Gothy at all, which is a little disappointing. I wanted to dig more into him, but the one that is interesting is Steven Jackson, and it's not the former running back Steven Jackson. Is Steven Jackson has moved to? He was our wide receivers coach last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's moved back to his, I guess you could say, more familiar territory, which is the defensive backs coach.
Raheem Morris kind of did the same thing. He went back. He started. I think he came here as a DB's coach.
Right.
Then I want to say the Super Bowl year, or maybe the year after the Super Bowl. I can't remember which one. He moved from DB coach to wide receiver coach, which I think potentially in that particular spot, that's a good swap.
Yeah, because you can teach it from a different angle as far as like how they're being defended.
What are these DBs doing to you? And like just based on the look you get at the line of scrimmage, what is that DB wanting to do? That gives a lot of insight into that. And then vice versa, when you're on the other side, once you've worked with the wide receivers, now you look at it from the other side, like, hey, they're lining up like this, or
maybe they're
see guys
right.
Yeah, how their stance is can sometimes tell you like a little bit about what is coming up and so forth.
Now we get into all that because of this deal right here, right? Dre Murphy says Dave Rigone got moved to QB coach. Okay, that's the reason why we're talking about all this. Now, Willie's got it in one. Rigone still keeps his OC duties. He just adds the QB coach like duties to his title. Now, keep in mind, Rigone didn't call plays. You know what last year, what Charles London and Dave Rigone did, and they described it in an analogy that I really like. They set the table for Arthur Smith. They did like all the scouting, all the looks. They devised the game plan, and then they brought that game plan to Smith. Smith gave it a check, once over, and then Smith called plays from there, right?
Yep.
And so now that Charles London is up in Tennessee, he got a little bit of a step up. He went to be their QB's coach, along with, I think, assistant head coach or assistant something.
I mean, I would assume he moves, like, gets that probably as a thing to try to protect him and give the team more say so to try to keep it from getting poached if at all possible.
And it kind of had to be a step up for the Falcons not to be able to block him was the deal. So I think it was like one of those deals where they added a assistant OC or offensive analyst or something, another little asterisk to his title, kind of like what we did with Jerry Gray. He's assistant head coach and defense. That assistant head coach is what keeps him from us being able to keep him from making a lateral move in that aspect. So anyway, back to Rigone. So if you listen to any of Rigone's like interviews last year, he talked like a guy who was more of a QB's coach. Like, especially when he talked about Ridder or Mariota at the time or what have you, like he talked, like he was getting them prepared to, go out there and play QB. But that's what he did in Chicago. He was their QB coach and their passing game coordinator.
Yeah.
So much the
And
same.
yeah, and and I've already seen it pop up online where people are like Dave Rigone, the passing game coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Woo, great QB coach hire. All this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this, just like uh, you know, just like a player, I think you see this a lot more often. Though you see it all over the field, but a lot more often with like offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive linemen can be on one team, look absolutely horrible. Wes Schweitzer,
Yeah.
that
I'll
guy,
say we've had a few
everybody,
of these guys.
yeah, they wanted to run him out of town. I wouldn't be surprised if like in another year or so we see Nick Person. Was that his name?
Oh, Mike
Uh,
Person.
Mike Person. I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up on an O line somewhere and was like integral part of some awesome O line. Because they get into a different situation, a different feel, different vibe, and things just click for them.
Right.
And the same thing with coaches. You like the vast majority of the coaches out there. There's going to be some that are just bums. There's going to be some that just are not really good coaches. But most are not going to make it to the NFL in some way, shape, or form if they didn't have some talent as a coach. All right, just like a player, most players that make it to the NFL, whether they're the back of the roster guys or the frontline starters, they all have some kind of talent. Now, whether or not they can focus and bring that out is a whole
Mm.
different matter. Same thing with a coach. Dave Rigone, I'm not sitting here telling you that he's a great coach. I'm not saying he's a good coach. I'm simply saying we can't take his stop prior to Atlanta and say that's who he is. Like this offense, yes, he wasn't the play caller, but like JR said, he helped set the table. He helped
Right.
put together the game plans for this offense. And this is again an offense that, while yes, we look at it over the course of the year and there were definitely times where like, what are we doing? But you look at the end of the year and you look at how often did this particular offense go 3 and out? And it's like number 3 or 4 in the league in the least amount of 3 and outs for the entire year. Um, you get some better better pass blocking, you get some better QB play, you get Kyle Pitts back for a full year, hopefully. You bring in some more offensive weaponry, and so like that. And now if you can get if nothing else changes about that number that we just talked about, they're number 3 or 4 in the least amount of 3 and outs. If we can keep that going with a little bit better efficiency at the end of that offensive drive. Now we're talking about an offense that's scoring
Oh
in
yeah.
the high 20s, low 30s on a more consistent basis, and hopefully a defense that's if that defense can basically be numbers wise as far as scoring, if we can keep teams to like 20, 24 points most games, we're probably going to be okay in most situations.
No, yeah.
Um,
I yeah, completely agree in that scenario. Dre Murphy asked a good question. So why not just make TJ Yates, who used to play QB, the QB coach? Now keep in mind Dave Rigone used to play QB as well.
yep.
Dave Rigone was a QB, same deal there. TJ is the wide receivers coach. That was the big like thought process there for a while. I'm gonna put it back up there that TJ was just going to slide over. I myself was really hoping they were going to go out and grab Pep Hamilton because
Yeah.
if they were going to keep Ridder, young guy, first real year starting, somebody like a Pep Hamilton who was integral in helping to develop uh, you know Andrew Luck and a handful of other guys is like he would have been a guy who I was really hoping they would have nabbed. Um, now this is like here's a comment that I see quite a bit. Like we need to get rid of Dave Rigone and Arthur Smith doesn't need to call plays. I I don't get that concept. And he follows it up with,
Yeah.
Arthur Smith's job's on the line. No, it's not. Not
No, it's
this year.
not.
It's not. Like
No, it's not.
look, I'll say this about his job, and I ain't gonna spend a ton of time on it. If they go out and spend a ton of money and bring in high profile guys and you only win 7 games and you're getting blown out and you're only beating lower tier talent, when you have a major infusion of talent on your end, his seat might start to get warm, but it ain't hot. It ain't nowhere near hot enough to be fired yet.
No.
But now the expectations are going to start to rise as you have completed the major hurdle of clearing up the cap space. Like you got
Yep.
the cap space now. Now you need to start showing development and showing progress. You
Yep.
were able to go 7-10 2 years in a row and basically having to reinvent your offense both years.
Right. And you went 7-10 this year with a team that was, in my opinion, markedly like lesser of a team than the year before.
Right.
Like you didn't have nearly the talent both on offense, on defense, because of having to get under those, with the financial situation the way it was. Anybody who thinks that, like, look, short of literally walking out onto the Falcons logo, flipping off all the fans in the middle of a game. I mean, if he just does what he
It would
does,
have to be something unfootball related.
yeah, it would. He'd have to kill somebody. It'd
Right.
have to be something like that.
Yeah, it
But
would be something.
but don't even look for a hot seat or even a warm seat until uh you know at the very least after this year, maybe
Like
even
I
not even
said,
until after next year.
right. Uh, First of all, Anonymous, I'm glad you're able to catch us on your lunch break. What's up? Same thing with our good buddy Millie Mills. And YMF Jamal.
What up, y'all?
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, glad everybody's in here tonight. Now, I don't point out William as in like wanting to point at him per se. Um, it's just I've seen that type of statement, and I get it, and I completely agree. To me, it's like he don't care. He just wants to win games. I think that's what we all want. We all at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, we just want to win games, right? But here at this junction where we are right now in the off season, it's time to like figure out how we're going to win games in a sense.
Yeah,
Willie's
and what Willie says here is like Arthur Smith fine, Rigone doesn't bother me. The fact that with most of this coaching staff, like we still have most of the same coaches,
Mhm.
or a lot of the same coaches, and the fact that we were competitive in just about every minus one,
Right,
maybe
one
two
game.
games.
No, like one you
Uh,
got blown out in one game, and that was by the Bengals, and
yeah,
that was
and
in the Bengals like home stadium.
Yeah, and so the fact that we were in every single game and we had the most amount of one score games in I think league history that we played in this year. Like at some point that you can't be as unlucky because at
Right.
some point winning one score games there's a combination there of, yes, you need the talent, but you also need a little bit of luck for things to bounce your way, for things to go your way, and to have that amount of bad luck, and then but still be able to have the same amount of wins as we did the year before with a lesser team
Mhm.
with the most amount of dead cap space,
All that.
all that jazz. To me, that speaks volumes of the coach that even in that position, he was able to put out a competitive product every single week.
Right. And the deal, like the bigger, you know, testament to me is you go back and watch the offense and how it operated the first year he got here, and then the offense and how it operated this year. It was night and day difference. So in 1 year's time, you remade your offensive scheme. And if you really think about what he did in Tennessee, like from Mariota to Tannehill, like yes, he's always believed in a strong run game, but he's had to remake it as well there too. So yeah, I'm just a little um like I said, I've seen that type of comment quite a bit. Uh and I'm willing to give him, this year an infusion of talent before I really start like looking cross-eyed at him. But that kind of brings us to the next topic on the docket, which was today the combine started per se. Um, There's no like workouts or anything like that, but teams showed up yesterday and had their press conferences. A lot of teams had their press conferences today, and so now you're starting to get some interesting information. Uh, One of the things that hit, like first thing this morning was everybody's number one free agent target, Deron Payne, got franchise tagged by Washington, which had been rumored for, a couple weeks now. So uh, the chances of us getting Deron Payne are real slim. They're not zero, but they're they're real slim. So, but that brings us to Terry Fontenot's press conference. I got a chance to listen to it live. Wasn't a very long press conference, but there
Like
were
10, 11 minutes.
yeah, it wasn't very long. Willie says any read between the lines nugget from Fontenot. I read a few, not kind of tipping a hand per se, but right before the press conference hit, you got the news that we released Marcus Mariota, which I was kind of confused about. I literally put it out a tweet yesterday. That was it was right after
Carson
Washington.
Wentz.
Yeah, Washington had released Carson Wentz, and I was like, wait a minute, why is Mariota still on the roster? Like the way everything went down at the end of last year, you knew they weren't keeping him. You knew they weren't going to keep him at the price at $12 million. The way he like walked away from the team, as far as like, oh, went on IR because of his knee and everything else. The way all that went down, it really felt like, bad blood, sour grapes, type deal. So, like, you knew he wasn't going to come back and be a backup, so that wasn't going to happen. So it's like, why is he still on the roster? And once I put that out there, everybody's like, dude, relax. Don't stress about it. To maximize bonuses or maximize the money, they have to wait until the first of the league year.
Yep.
And I was like, okay,
That was my impression as well.
right. It's like, so that was like, I was like, okay, all right, cool. I must have misunderstood. Like everywhere I looked, like when I went to Spotrac or when I went to Over the Cap and used their calculators, none of that was a designated, had to be like start of the league year kind of thing. Like it was just, you cut him, you save $12 million. And so, anyway, so right before Terry takes the podium, the announcement comes that they have released Marcus Mariota. I think it sounded like they were waiting on him to be able to pass his exit physical, for the surgery or whatever that he had done on his knee, the little cleanup job that he had done. They had to wait for him to be able to, is what it sounded like, because, Fontenot brought up the exit physical. So that's the kind of line that I was reading there. So then he gets into talking about, obviously everybody asks him about, the QB situation. And this is, I don't know, like chat, if y'all remember this or not. Heck, if you remember me saying this or not, at the end of the year, as one of the main reasons why I wanted Ridder to start sooner was because of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Because we're in the off season and we don't have a clear answer if Ridder's QB1 or not, because we didn't see enough from him. And that goes the other way. We didn't see enough from him to not declare him QB1, and we didn't see enough from him to declare him QB1. And every time the front office staff, coaching staff has had a chance, they will not come out and say, which is smart on their part, I get it, but they will not come out and say that he's QB. I mean, Fontenot even said, we're not anointing him anything.
Yeah, no. I think based on what I read in that press conference, and also from stuff that I've read from or watched from I think Steve Weish, I think, and if they go out and get Lamar, which I don't think we're going to do it, I don't think the Ravens want to do that. I don't think they want to get rid of him, but either way, like I really don't. And it's not the money. Like I see a lot of people like, we don't want to go back into cap hell. And I'm like, if we go and get Lamar this year, the money is the least of my worries.
Right.
It really is, because you can figure out ways around that. I'm not, and even then, with the amount of space we have, we can still do the Lamar Jackson thing and still go and get a bunch of guys that we need for this defense and offense. We can still go do that. I'm not worried about that. It is the draft capital, personally. Okay, personally, that is what bothers me about it the most. I don't want to give up that much, and we're maybe jumping the gun a little bit here, but as far as our agenda, but like there was something that came out today is like, look, if you know for sure that you're going to give up 2 first rounders this offseason, what do you want? Do you want Jackson or do you want the first round pick?
Right. The first overall pick.
Yeah, the first overall pick. Sorry, yeah, the very first overall pick. In that now, this is just my own personal. What I would do if I was running this show is I'm taking the first round pick or the first overall pick,
Right.
and that's because I think hands down the best guy in this draft, no matter what uh, position you want to go for, I think the best guy in this draft is Jalen Carter. And if I get a chance to go to number 1 and get Jalen Carter and literally stick him next to Grady Jarrett, and then also bring in a guy like Tomlinson or Zach Allen or
Right.
Ioannidis or any of those guys, Draymond Jones, who's probably going to be a free agent, I would love to have him on there. So you got Grady Jarrett, you got Jalen Carter, you got Draymond Jones or Zach Allen or whoever. That immediately transforms your defense.
Yep.
Immediately.
That would be the
right?
best defensive line you've had in well over a
Forever.
decade. Yeah.
Forever.
Right.
Probably since the 98 Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, that's probably the last time I could look at a defense that we've had and been like, yeah, we could get after it.
Yep. Exactly. Let's see here. Willie tipped us $5, which we appreciate. He said,
"Oh, hold on, just for old time's sake."
There you go. There you go. The Falcons season and Marcus QB play summed up in both games against Carolina. The QB scramble to win and the ill-advised back turf throw. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that was, to me, a much better time to make the move. I've been on record saying that. And because what I wanted mainly by that time was I wanted to see more of Ridder so that we weren't having this necessarily having this conversation, because you have a half a season or close to it, 6, 7 games, 8 games, and you have a bigger sample size with because Pitts got hurt right after that, right? Or was that before that? I can't remember.
I think it was before that.
Right. So anyway, you'd have more chance to see what Ridder brought you, possibly win another game or two, maybe even be in the playoffs. And you could then have a much more informed debate than what we're having currently. Because currently, anybody who throws up there, Ridder is trash, is immediately countered with, you haven't seen enough of him to say that. And anybody who is trying to proclaim Ridder is the future, you're immediately countered with, you haven't seen enough of him to say that.
What I will say is, we haven't seen enough to say he's him,
Right.
and we haven't seen enough to say that he's not him. But we haven't. What we haven't seen is I haven't personally seen anything, whether it was in preseason or the games he played in the regular season, that made me be like gave me a real pause on I don't know for sure, but I don't get those vibes from him.
No,
All right, now
I'm
not also saying I get the vibes of like, this guy's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes,
right.
but I legitimately want to see this guy get a full off season, get those starter reps, get the rapport down with all your guys, and then come into the season and be the guy. That's what I want to see.
And I will say this every time, and I did make the statement earlier, right now, let's see, Joseph, we were talking about Terry's presser at the uh, combine. Crap, I hit the button. Anyway, all right. So with that being said, the idea that every time this coaching staff or front office has had a chance to talk about Ridder, they have talked about him in a glowing manner. Whether they have uh, wanted to name him starter or not, QB1 not, doesn't matter. They're not. I mean, because Terry even straight up and down said, we're not going to back ourselves into a corner. And because this time last year, like you had no clue that you were actually going to get thrown into the Watson chase. Like it wasn't until Watson made the call to blank that then you got into the Watson mix, right? So you weren't going into the offseason thinking that you were going to go after Watson. That wasn't in the cards. So they don't know what's on the horizon. And so he smartly doesn't want to back himself into a corner there and just absolutely name because they don't know what's coming. Right now, the things they know for sure is they got Desmond Ridder under contract for 4 years. Whether he's the starter, whether he's the backup, he's on this team right now. Okay. So what they have said about him is that he's answered every bell that they have given him, like that he's come in contact with,
Yep.
that he has, performed the way they want him to perform, like on and off the field. He's dealt with the adversity. He has of not being the starter, of being picked in the third round, of not getting his chance until late. And when he did get his chance, you're out of the race, but he's doing everything he can to be, the best he can be. And, so they liked him because of his smarts and because of how, well and quick he picked up the playbook and everything else. So there's a lot of good to be had with him. But again, you haven't seen enough of him to say really one way or the other.
Now,
And
one of the other things that I excuse me, one of the things I like that I heard in an interview with Terry Fontenot was, I think it was Rothstein.
Michael Rothstein.
Yeah, I think he had the interview with him, and he basically said, like, when you look back to last year, like, and you went through the combine and you went, the whole thing. Who was the guy that stood out to you the most? And he said Ridder. Like he's
Yeah.
like, the guy like was able to go through the offense, go through, he was so bright, he was so smart, he was so ready and prepared and all
Yep.
those things that it just I guarantee you they had all the same stuff with um oh Steelers picked him up. What's his
Pickett.
face?
Kenny
Pickett,
Pickett.
they talked to all those guys and did all the same stuff. And the fact that Ridder stood out above them. Now, he didn't stand out so much that they took him in the first round or second round.
No.
Waited till the third round. But he was the guy that most impressed them out of just in general at the combine last year. And everything that I've seen of this guy from his college days to where, because when he got to college, he was not the starter. He
Nope.
had to wait, and then when he got his chance, he hit the gas and never looked back.
That's it.
So it's not new to him to not necessarily be the guy
Right off
at the very
rip.
beginning.
Yep.
And so he's going to cut, I think this guy, while it may not be like the GOAT, I think this guy could be a really good starter, and I want to give him at least the shot to do so before we even worry about going into everything.
I want to see 23. If he's not the guy, then guess what? You're going to be in position to draft a quarterback. It'll be pretty obvious that you'll be in position, and you'll have your choice of probably either Caleb Williams out of USC or Cade Mays out of UNC. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad position to be in because let's be realistic. For the chances of us actually competing for a Super Bowl in 23 aren't very high. Like, yes, we could. You could bring in a crap ton of talent. We could all learn, a new defense, a new offense, hit the ground running, and bam. but that doesn't happen very often. Now, I will say, like going like sticking on his presser for a little bit longer. Um, with some of the like MJ says, also notice that Terry talked about adding to the running back room to not run down Tyler Algier. B. John Robinson at 8, BPA on Terry's board? Question mark. See, look, I'll say this straight up and down. For a couple weeks now, I have been in the later rounds adding a running back to my mock drafts, and everybody's like, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing it?" This is why. You're
Yep.
going to in the modern NFL, you're going to draft or add a running back every year. You have to. Like, I mean, not just for Algier, but also for CP84, who's not getting any younger. So you're going to add a running back.
Yep.
I don't
I'm
expect it to be. Go ahead.
I'm coming around on Roshan Johnson.
Yeah, Roshan
Uh,
Johnson is super. There's a lot of really good, versatile backs in this game. Because also one thing he noticed, like you wanted to add multiple dimensions to that room. Okay, so now you're talking about guys like Kenny McIntosh. You're talking about guys
yep.
like Tajay Spears. You're talking about guys like Deuce Vaughn. Like you're talking about a bunch of different guys. Israel Abandakanda, Zach Chardonnay. There are a ton of really good backs every year, and this year is no different.
Hmm.
And there's like we saw a bunch of good ones down at the Senior Bowl, like Chase Brown was super interesting, along with Evan Hull out of Northwestern looked really good. So there is like a ton of like potential to add there, and they're gonna. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily expect it to be Bijan at 8, but I wouldn't put it past them. Like to be completely honest,
Yeah. I like Roshan because I
yeah,
think we can. That's a guy we can get in the third,
right.
maybe.
Well, even
Uh,
probably even lower because at the Senior Bowl he hurt his hand. Like I think
okay.
he broke his hand. And yes, Millie, that is Bijan's backup.
Yeah,
Uh,
and so that's the reason why I was saying that I liked him because for one, I like what I've seen of him when he is playing, but two, he has a little bit more tread on his tire because Bijan's been the man.
yep.
So he hasn't had quite so much run. He hasn't had to put so much age on those tires. To this point in his career. So I like that part about it too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, so yeah, the idea that well, yeah, like I said, the idea that we're going to add a running back is not something that should worry y'all because we're going to do it. I can almost guarantee you. Whether it's, I highly doubt it's free agency. More than likely, it's going to be later rounds of the draft. He Terry also brought up talking about being in your nickel formation, uh, 75 to 80% of the time. So like a nickel starter is a nickel player is a starter. So that leads me to believe that that's something that's going to get a lot of focus, whether it's bringing back Isaiah Oliver. Um, we were joking around in chat or like on Twitter saying like, oh, Brian Branch confirmed at 8, um, because of, hold on. Dre Harrison, we appreciate that. $10. Very much appreciate that. Says the Falcons should draft a running back every other year that creates assembly line effect. This will also allow us to let running backs walk in free agency and get paid elsewhere unless he's a generational talent. Exactly. Nail on the
Hey,
head.
appreciate the ten spot there, Dre.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, that is exactly right. Unless he's a Saquon Barkley, unless he's a Derrick Henry, you let him walk and you move on. As much as I like Tyler Algier, unless he just absolutely keeps this pace going for the rest of his career, in 4 years, you let him walk and you just keep drafting. Um, but the interesting thing that came up with the Brian Branch talk was something else that Terry Fontenot said. He said, there's a lot of good players in Georgia. And then he said, I'm not necessarily talking about UGA. He said there's a lot of good players from the state of Georgia. He's talking about on their board, they have little peach magnets that they put beside the guys' names who are from Georgia. Now, You could say, JR, why is that a big deal? Okay, Casey Hayward from Georgia, Lorenzo Carter from Georgia. Like, they have made a concerted effort to bring homegrown players back to the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Whether they feel like it gives these players more incentive to play, kind of like a Moneyball type thing. What was the line from Moneyball? If he ain't got a pretty girlfriend, I don't want him because he ain't got confidence. Like, that ain't got nothing to do with playing baseball, but it's an analytic. It's an analytic metric, right? In a sense. And if they're using players from Georgia to that effect, like if they think in their minds that, hey, if they come back to this state and play here in Georgia in front of their family, in front of their friends, it's going to give them a sense of ownership, a sense of pride.
Yeah.
And so that got to chuckling because Brian Branch is from Tyrone, Georgia. And I really chuckled because Brian Branch, if we draft him, will be my new favorite player because he also went to the same high school I went to. Which I was like, that is neat and something that I did not realize. Dre, we appreciate you again very
Man,
much for
Drake.
$5. He says majority of NFL players come out of the South, more specifically Georgia.
And like that's so you got guys that go to like Louisiana for the Saints and they love it because they're from Louisiana.
Yeah.
But then you got guys that go to like Pittsburgh. They weren't necessarily, there's not a lot of guys that are playing in the NFL that are from Pittsburgh.
Right.
There's some, I'm sure, but there's not a ton. Not nearly as much as like from Georgia, from Florida.
Georgia,
Texas.
Florida, Texas, California.
Yeah, those are the four big ones. So, like, while one of the things that you get guys to go play for in Pittsburgh, even though it's crappy weather, during the winters, when you're going to be playing, it's just really miserable, all this other stuff, or any of the northern teams, you could leverage guys who are from Georgia to come play back for the Falcons. And that's something that you could, especially guys that maybe have been in the league, maybe even if they haven't gotten their big payday, but they've been in the league, so they're not like hurting for cash.
Right.
Like a Lorenzo Carter. That guy's got, unless he's been really, really dumb with his money, he's got millions that he can rely on. He's not hurting for money. So to come play for the hometown team, that's a big thing.
Right. Yeah,
And I do think you can create that like you said, that culture of like, this is our team.
Right. This is our team. This is our state. This is, you get that, that camaraderie, it's just another level of connection. And for Terry to like point that out, so far Terry has, like, for what he has told us, he hasn't lied to us, right? And he hasn't really even tried to blow smoke up our butts. Like, he told us right off the rip, he's a BPA guy. And he showed you that in his first draft when he took a tight end at 4, and then followed it up with starting a wide receiver run at 8 last year. So, if he thinks that Brian Branch, being an extremely versatile defensive back, whether it's a safety or a corner, just a very versatile, defensive back, is going to be the best here, I would not be surprised one bit.
All right, I just got something real quick.
Yeah.
I want to show this real quick because I wish I'd have thought about it before, but this is a great banner, and I think everybody will agree.
Okay, what you got?
Yes.
I was wondering what you were typing over there. Saw you were there typing. I was like, I didn't see nothing pop up on the chat, so I was like, I don't know what he's doing over there. Oh man. Anyway, go back to the press. No, you're good. It's all good. But yes, that is definitely for a lot of folks, it's sign of a party. Let's see. Millie says exactly, which is why I think Jacoby Myers would come here because he's a free agent. Let's be real. Who wants to play in New England without Brady? Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. It's a much better situation here. Let's see what else we got. I guess we can move into uh, this part for the last few minutes. We'll spend this time. We haven't done this a ton with different formats of trying to have like topics and stuff like that. So we haven't interacted with the chat as much as we normally do, but I think we're going to take this time to definitely do that. Let's see. I saw something. Okay,
Well,
MJ.
go
I
ahead.
was going to say MJ says would really love Arden Key in Atlanta. MJ, I really am going to want you to watch our upcoming free agent video that we got coming out on, I believe it's Saturday. I have it set up. Also, speaking of that, the other part of trade cut and keep will be out on Thursday. So definitely check that out. Uh, I hope that y'all seem to have enjoyed that, uh, the offensive aspect of it, and so yeah, definitely check that out on Thursday. The defensive side of trade cut and keep will be out. Let's see here. It says Sip Thought says Mississippi, my home state, has bred some real winners. We just grow more talent in the South in general. Of course we do, and that's because we can play longer. Like because of the weather, you can practice longer. And oh, what's going on? Is there something? Where are you sending that to me on?
Discord.
Gotcha. Am I having some issues?
Yep.
How bad?
Yeah, you're. It cleared up, but then you just hitched up a little bit.
Yeah, for what I'm hardwired in, but it keeps throwing up this symbol um like I'm on Wi-Fi, and I have it hardwired plugged in. Everything's plugged in, so I don't understand. Hopefully, it's
Yeah,
not hitching too bad. Um,
your voice hasn't. It's mostly just been the video.
okay. Well, if I start hitching too bad, then I'm going to expect you to man the ship there. All right, let's get into some questions into some chat. Let's see.
Let's see. I did see one here. Yeah, Fred Butts. Think he's going to go get Carter. Like again, if I'm moving up in this draft, now if somehow we are able to stay at 8 and some miracle happens and he falls to 8, I don't think it's going to happen. Because I think somebody said like he might fall because he's not doing any of the workouts. He's not doing any of the workouts because he doesn't want to hurt his already crazy high draft stock by potentially hurting himself, maybe even having just a bad day or something like that. He'll probably do the pro day stuff where he's in a much more controlled environment, like catered to him.
Right.
He probably won't do the combine for the fact that he doesn't want to injure himself potentially and then hurt his stock that way.
Well,
But I'll say this: the Jalen Carter above everybody else in this draft is the only guy that I will move anywhere up, like upwards from 8 in this draft. He
yeah.
is literally it.
Yeah, I agree there. To me, there's nobody else that's worth moving. A lot of times when you see these guys who are going to be top 5 picks, um, the reason why they may not work out is because the rigorous schedule at the combine is not beneficial to the player. As far as like doing medicals, doing interviews, and then going to do these all out drills. I've seen a lot of interviews where players talk about it's the most like unconducive way to do, and that's part of it. Uh, for what the NFL is trying to see, like how do you handle and how do you deal with adversity. So you want to take that one?
Yeah, Willie basically asked me like, how high would I go to get Jalen Carter and at what cost? I go to like if I could go to 1 and I could give up this year's 1, uh, maybe even this year's second and next year's first, or maybe next year's second, like 1 and 2 this year, 2 next year. If I could do, I don't think they would take it. But let's say they did, I would absolutely do that in a
Right.
heartbeat.
Yep.
He, in my personal opinion, I think he is that kind of. He is like an Aaron Donald, like Ndamukong Suh was. He is that kind of a defensive tackle that you get. Now, full disclosure here. Could he end up being like the biggest bust of all time? As an Atlanta Falcon fan, I've seen that plenty of times before. So yes, absolutely could happen. He could be a big bust. But everything that I've seen to this point just points me in the direction of this guy is going to be amazing. And just you don't see guys like him very often at the NFL, let alone college football.
Right.
And
look,
so
on that amazing defensive line that Georgia had with Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and all those other guys, Trayvon Walker, like Carter was still better than all of those guys.
yes.
And Trayvon Walker went number 1 overall. So
Jordan Davis, like I would have loved to have had him. This guy, and I thought he was like crazy good. And then Jalen Carter's just been even better than that.
Millie asked me, he says, JR, if you had to, how much draft capital would you offer for Lamar though? I think just first rounders, 23, 24, and 25. That's it. No second rounders. What I would do, what I think would be a realistic offer that would get it done, is I would do a first and second this year, a first and second next year, and at most a third the year after. And that's it. Like, and I know you're like, oh, JR, that's a lot. Yeah, it's going to take a lot. Like, especially if they exclusive tag him. If they non-exclusive tag him, then it's 2 first rounders and you call it a day and you move on. That's all you have to give. If they non-exclusive tag him. But I don't think that's going to happen. So the exclusive tag means that they get to set the price. And I think that it's going to be something more along the lines of 4 to 5 picks, if not picks and players, so it's going to be pricey. Let's see here.
I got one here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Tony's asking, what about signing one of these left guards in free agency, either Philly's Isaac Sayamalo or Ben Powers from Baltimore, then draft a guard in the third to develop? I mean, you can. If you pick up Isaac Sayamalo, then you probably are keeping Hennessy as your backup.
Yep.
You're probably still going to draft a guy, probably though not in like the third round. You're probably going to draft him in like 4th, 5th, 6th as a developmental guy, kind of the same way with the Georgia guy Schaefer last year. But I mean, look, if we're now, granted, Sayamalo is a right guard, so if we were to bring him in, we're asking him to flip to left guard because you're not going to move Lindstrom out, or you're going to ask Lindstrom to now move from right to left. So either way, you're moving a guy who is predominantly and so far in his career has been a right guard. You're asking him to flip over to left guard. Now you're paying him millions of dollars. Can he do it? Absolutely. Will it take time though? Potentially, and are there going to be problems until he acclimates to that? Potentially. I don't know Ben Powers. Like, is he a left guard, right guard? If he's a left guard, then by all means, that's a cool thing. But honestly, I don't necessarily. I think if we had to spend money on the offensive line this year, I want to spend it probably at center. Though I've heard some really good things from the coaching staff, specifically about Dahlman. They really liked how the rapport he was building with Ridder. In their eyes, they saw progression and improvement with him throughout the season. So, and this guy's only so we're going to go into his third year. So he's not like a guy who's been in the league, couldn't cut it. And he's a retread. He's a guy we drafted. He's, second year in the league, first year starting. Maybe, they want to give him a little bit more time to develop and see if that pans out. But if I was going to spend big money, it'd probably be center, not necessarily guards. Because if you got Matthews on one end, McGarry, who I think we're going to keep on the other end, you got Lindstrom on as a guard on the right side, and then whoever you get at left guard, whether that's Wilkinson again or Hennessy or whoever, but you add somebody like Posick in at center,
Mhm.
then that really kind of solidifies your whole line, and you can make up for that one weaker link
Yeah.
over there. So
Yeah. He's he was saying Ben Powers is a left guard.
so
So
so he could slot in a little bit better than say I'm not gonna say better. He's a more natural fit for what we're looking for um, than Sayamalu because Sayamalu is right, and
mhm.
then you'd have him flip and do everything backwards the
Well,
way
yeah, I
he's
mean
used to doing. So
Salmalu's has played some left, but yeah. Um Eric Mack is commenting says that's too much for one guy, talking about what I had laid out for Lamar. I just want to bring to the point that Russell Wilson like got traded from Seattle to Broncos for Russell and a fourth, and Seattle got back Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, 2022's first round pick, 2022 second, 2022 fifth, 2023 first, 2023 second. That's what they got for Russell Wilson, who was much older. And,
yeah,
so no, I don't think it would be too much, honestly. Like, that's how these things, you don't just let these people go. Even
no,
the Seahawks, who knew Russell Wilson, like, knew that he was like crazy or whatever, transpired. So, I mean, yes, I agree, Willie. That is dumb on Denver's part, but that was the trade,
yeah,
So, um, no, I don't like, and that's why I'm like, that's why I'm hesitant because if you do make that move, you're going to be giving up a lot of assets. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And I'm not even worried about the money part, but yeah, then you have the money. Let's see. um, I'm not down like he's saying Taylor Lewan. Taylor Lewan's a left tackle and very injury prone. Like
yes.
he's very injury prone. I'm not down with that. I'd rather just stick with the guy that we have at this junction and see if they can get better. Chief says, who should I pick on my mock draft second round pick? BJ Ojolari or Andrew Carter III? BJ Ojolari.
Yes,
Did
Ojolari.
I say that fast enough? I could have like, straight up and down. BJ Ojolari. Like
Andre Carter has probably plummeted on some people's
like
draft boards because of how bad he looked at the in one of these All Star games.
he's
So
he plummeted in my draft board. Like, and that's not just in the All-Star game. The All-Star game and the week of practice confirmed what I saw on tape. And that was the problem there, was uh
Blizz, Blizz, why are you trolling us? Why are you trolling us, man?
yeah, no, I'm good. He can stay up in Seattle.
Yep.
Um, okay, King Seven says Witherspoon or Gonzalez if we go defensive back and why. Me, I think it's Gonzalez. Like, if I have to pick, I like Witherspoon, but Witherspoon seems to be more of like a headhunter, like big hit, kind of guy. And I think Gonzalez gives you a lot more in the ball hawking. But I'll say this, I'll be up front. I haven't done nearly as much draft studying as of yet, and I haven't made it to a lot of the cornerbacks. So this, like, I'm giving you a 30,000 foot view. I'll probably have more to say, like, now that, like, after free agency is done, I'll be digging into the draft heavily. I'm starting to get more heavily going, but yeah.
Yeah. But like Gonzalez, he seems to me kind of he has rare size.
Yes.
But the problem and but the difference with him is you can get guys with his same kind of size every year in the draft. What you don't get is guys with his size that move like he does,
Right.
with the body control that he does, with the fluid hip movements that he's got. Uh, he's almost like the DB version of like a Kyle Pitts. He's just that freakishly athletic with a big build, and that long and that length that people are that coaches want. So
No,
that's where I would go as well.
Right. Okay. So Willie says, so if Deron Payne is franchise tagged and Lamar stays in Baltimore, who would be our splash signings? Top of my list would be Jesse Bates.
Yep.
As being
looks like Cleveland's trying to gear up maybe to go after him too.
Right, because they just cut their corner that they signed last year, Johnson. We have one advantage though; they're negative 18 million, and we're positive 66 million. So might be a little easier to convince. Plus, you have the leg up on Bates being represented by the same people that represent Hayward and AJ Terrell and Pitts. So there's that familiarity there, which does help. So anyway, Bates would be the big signing, like splash signing.
I mean, you could say Bates. You could say, I think all of our splash signings potentially probably be on the defensive side,
right?
If we do have any. So, Bates. If we were to get Zach Allen, If we were to get Tomlinson, if we were to get Draymond Jones. If we were to get any one of those guys, I would consider that any one of those four guys to be a splash signing. Tremaine Edwards
would be nice.
He'd be a splash. Jalen Ramsey, if you feel like he's still got something in the tank, he would be a splash. There's lots of guys out there we could potentially go get, and that would be considered a splash signing in my book.
Right, and that's not discounting like anybody that we might trade for. So there's a lot of possibilities out there. But I think the big splash would be, would be Bates to me. Like Bates would be the big name. And then if you could add somebody, like Jacoby Myers on the other side of the ball. Sorry, I keep dropping a coin. If y'all can see how much crap I fidget with while I'm doing these shows, that's why you can't see my hands, because I am constantly messing with something. You're right. Yeah, I know. I normally have like a whole. Yeah, look, this is the one I got for over Valentine's Day.
Nice.
We'll pop it. I'll sit here and just.
Exactly what this is. It's like you just push these. Like when I got this for her, it was a stocking stuffer for her. It was just. I sat here for probably like 3 hours trying to get all of these little things to go in, and it is literally impossible. But
you can't. No, I've broken a few of them. You can't.
Very stubborn.
But yeah, like, I kind of agree. Bliv's saying like some of the guys you named weren't necessarily more ripple than splash, but I think Tony's got some good, like with like Javon Hargraves. Yannick Ngakoue would be, would move the needle quite a bit. I'm not a huge, like name wise, like Jalen Ramsey would be like a nice name, but last few years he hasn't necessarily been the same. But, King says AJ, Bates, Grant, Gonzalez in the secondary, Tomlinson, Grady, AK, and any other D-line guy like value. Oh my God, scary. Exactly. And that's what you have the potential to look at. And that's why I say, to me right now, the bell of the ball, the blue ribbon is, Jesse Bates. Because you did Jesse Bates and then decide to like grab a Gonzalez or even a Joey Porter at 8. Then you transform that secondary into Atlanta's version of the no-fly zone, and that just makes the defensive line even scarier, especially if you add, some decent pieces. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for myself. He says, yeah, if you get Jesse Bates, then you're going to do what you're going to do with Richard Grant and my man Jalen, the ball Hawkins though, bro.
So Richie Grant on probably. I mean, I think Richie Grant, and if you get Richie Grant and Jesse Bates as your two like frontline safeties, I think Hawkins then becomes a backup. He's depth at that point. I think if you go into a 3 safety look, I think that's Bates, Grant, and Isaiah Oliver. I think
Yeah, if
he
we bring
becomes
him
your
back.
third safety.
Well, the deal here though
Well,
is like if you bring in Bates and Oliver prices himself out of Atlanta, you could then put Hawkins in that role. Like because
is he as good
Hawkins,
is he as good coverage wise as Oliver though?
I think so. But and I'd have to go back and watch like literally just Hawkeye him and watch games. But I know in college when I was watching his college tape, he plays much more confident closer to the line of scrimmage. And
Yeah,
if you're playing him in that nickel role, that's where he's playing. Is closer to that line of scrimmage. And that could be um interesting there. That's if you like if Oliver prices himself out. Chief was asking what's wrong with Jalen Hawkins. He took kind of like a little bit of a dip this year as far as like coverage goes. There were times that he was taking some weird angles uh, that I remember. Like I said, I would have to go back and watch him, but he's definitely more of a strong safety than he is a free safety. And I think Richie Grant's a better safety than Hawkins.
and
So
you can get more of our thoughts on him later on this week when we do our trade cut keep
right.
for the defense.
Yeah, that's a healthy episode. Uh, like we did some talking on that one. So
Yep.
I really hope y'all check that out and follow the links and go vote yourself so that we can see how much y'all differ from where we were. Tony has a good thought here. Like
Oh,
get back up
sorry,
there.
that was me.
Look at you fighting for buttons. Says a defensive line of Yannick Ngakwe, Javon Hargrave, Grady, and Graham. Now the rest of the league will look, and so Atlanta's serious. They mean business. Yeah, like you're going to have to either way. Like everybody's in agreement. We need to upgrade the defensive line.
Yep.
Uh, and so, oh man, well we have bumped up well over an hour. My good man. If anybody else you got anything else you need to add? Anybody else got any other questions? Because if we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. Um,
Let's see.
let's see. King says, "Who puts on weight? Puts on weight that Nielsen likes big guys on that line." Yeah, no, that is like I could see like them trying to convince AK to get up closer to 260, 265, and which really makes me interested to see what they think of Malone. And which we
Yeah.
get into in the trade cut keep. Let's see. Anybody else got anything? Somebody said, okay, Chief says, who's better, Hawkins or Neal? They groomed Neal to use he to use the Rock Mike Evans world.
Yeah.
He did do
Whew.
that on a consistent basis.
Him and Willie Sneed. Willie
Yeah.
Sneed will never forget Keanu Neal.
Heck no. He took him out quite. I mean, but that's what they brought Keanu Neal in for. Like, unfortunately, he didn't have much of a use past that. So,
Yep.
all right. Well, it looks like everybody's.
Let's see. Um,
Anybody else?
let's see. Sheldon Rankins is another guy to potentially look at.
Yep.
You know, like I agree. We have got to get. I think we have to pick up a legitimate defensive tackle, like inside defensive guy to be. Uh, you know, I think Taquan Graham with another year with this particular defensive regime
Right.
could potentially like explode. Um,
I think yeah.
Not saying he will, but I think he has the opportunity because of what they've. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another guy.
Yeah.
I would take him at 44.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
but yeah, so but Taquan Graham, he'll be there, and then you put a guy next to him like a Javon Hargraves, a Tomlinson, what have you, that goes next to Grady, and then that just opens everything else up. But yeah, we got to get somebody in there with him, so he can we can scheme some things to get him one on ones,
Yep.
and then when they start to double team him, now you got one on ones on the other side, but you got to have somebody that can take advantage of those one on ones. So I again, like if we're not going to get Deron Payne, my next top two guys are probably going to be Javon Hargraves, which I don't know if Philly's going to let him go,
Yeah.
but I would love to have Javon Hargraves or Draymond Jones, like
Now,
either
okay,
one of those two guys.
Tony Wright, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to check into this, I think we've already been given our compensatory pick
That would have been
for
last year, right?
right. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think, again, compensatory picks have to do with amount of money signed and position. I don't think it has anything to do with like stats. Like I said, I think we've already been given our compensatory pick, and it was like a fifth or sixth round, which was kind of like ridiculous because it was offset by the signing of Lorenzo Carter because they were both listed as linebackers, even though Lorenzo Carter is an outside linebacker. So, yeah, that's the best. I'm going to double check that, but I don't think we get one this year.
Do we think Ridder needs another wide receiver? Who we got in mind?
Yes.
Jacoby Myers probably number one on my list.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's going to necessarily break the bank wide receiver wise. He's probably going to want 17, 18, somewhere in that range, which is wide receiver 2 money
Right.
these
Well,
days.
and for me, like there's that's what I'm actually getting into next. I've done like 4 or 5 edge guys. I've done a few. I still got to post them, but I've done a few like offensive line guys. But the group I'm going to go look at next, as far as drafting, is wide receivers, and Kayshawn Booty is a guy who I really think could do well
So
as
wait
a
a minute,
wide
hold on.
receiver too.
I heard, okay, so everyone was talking about Booty,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden I heard, oh, he's going back to college. Has
No,
he like
no,
swapped again? Has he
nope,
flip flopped again?
no. He flip flopped at the beginning. He said he was coming back, and this is why I think you could get him in the second, maybe even the third, depending. The reason why I say this is he flip flopped, and it come out that there was some like some hanky panky going on potentially between him, some recruiters, and some coaches and stuff like that. Nothing illegal, just stuff that was frowned upon.
Was it
And
copacetic?
once that stuff came out, it was like, oh, going to the draft, So um, there might be like some like character concerns possibly, so you might be able to get him in the second or third round. Kayshawn Booty is a guy who I really is going to be an interesting playmaker, and also there are a handful of guys I saw at the Senior Bowl: Michael Wilson, Isaiah Hutchinson. Those guys they caught my attention. But then you have a handful of guys who are already like familiar with Ridder and a burner in Tyler Scott,
Yep.
who played with them in Cincinnati, and you get him probably in the 4th, 5th round. So that's what I'm going to like lean into the next like few weeks, try to get some write-ups done. If y'all want to read any of my write-ups, there's a link in the description down below. It's p4patl.blogspot.com. And I've just been putting my evaluations out there if you want to go check that out. But let's see. But yeah, I think a wide receiver wise, I think we need a deep threat for sure.
Yes.
That's what King was just kind of just saying, talking about he really wants a deep threat. I think you're going to have that. But I mean, once you got Ridder in there, you actually saw like London become a little bit more of a deep threat. And I'll be interested to see what Pitts looks like with London. Or with Ridder rather. So we'll see how all that transpires. But
Yep.
I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
Yeah.
As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come say hi.
That's right. That's right. Keep your eye on the channel. We got 2 videos coming out this week. The other half of Trade Cut Keep and the next installment in our free agent like profiling videos. This time we do the front 7. We got one
Hey,
more
and
group to go.
yeah, go check out the forums.
Yep.
Put in your picks for trade, cut, keep, and if we get enough people to fill out the forms, then we
We'll
can
have like
bring
a,
it up here, have a discussion, and y'all can tell us
right.
how stupid we are.
Exactly. We can have a comparison show or something like of that nature. But as always, keep your eye on the channel because we'll have stuff coming out. If you ain't hit the like button, hit the like button. If you ain't subscribed, please do. Tell somebody else to subscribe because that's what helps us out.
Absolutely.
We're on Spotify. If you like it, Apple, iTunes, all the places to get your podcasts. This episode here will be out on podcast format. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.